to think that self-sabotage is constantly plotting against yourself, like procrastinating for an assignment you have to hand, or maybe rejecting opportunities just because you think you don't deserve them. And that is indeed self-sabotage, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Self-sabotage is so much more. There are plenty of actions that are also self-sabotage, but you may not realize it. And if you're in a journey on trying to stop yourself from falling into these tendencies, there are many actions you may not be aware of that you also need to work on. So here are some not so known actions that contribute to those self-sabotaging patterns. Hi, I'm Paula, the girl that sits here every Tuesday to just talk about things that happen to all of us but that we don't talk about enough. And today I wanted to talk about some signs of self-sabotage that you may not even be aware it's actually self-sabotage. The first one is comparing yourself to others. This one is incredibly tricky because most of us only share and post the best part of our lives and the best part of our days and just the things that we feel good about. So there really is nothing good that you can take out of comparing yourself to others because you are deliberately making yourself feel bad because you're only taking into account the good parts of their life. You don't know their struggles, their history, how they actually feel, how their mental health is doing, if they have any struggles at home. Long story short, you just know what they choose to show you. Do you think it really is fair to compare the best of them to all of you? It doesn't even make sense because you haven't lived the same life, you don't have the same history, and you haven't faced the same situations. So there really is no point of comparison. I know that not comparing yourself to others is way harder than it sounds, especially because we live in a society built around ideals of perfection and competition. But if you're going to compare yourself to someone, at least try to compare yourself to the past versions of you. You are the only person you have all the information about. So if you're going to compare yourself to past versions of yourself or to other people, first, think about all of the things you have achieved so far, all of the problems you've solved, all of the situations you've faced and survived. Think about the fact that so far you have survived all the days that you thought were the worst day of your life, and you're still here. You still managed to get to this point in life, even if you don't know how the fuck you managed to get here in the first place. Try not to be so hard with yourself. You are doing so much better than you think. And just in case it gives you some comfort, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing either, and I also don't know how I got here. But here I am, and honestly, at my 20 years of age, I'm starting to believe that actually no adult knows what they're doing. We just manage to live through life and somehow we just do it kind of properly. So don't be so hard on yourself. You are doing all right and you're not the only one struggling. The second one is beating yourself up when you can't control things, especially those that were out of your control in the first place. I get it. We all want to have control over the situations that affect us all the time, but we can't. Most of the things are just partly under our control. So why do you blame it on you when they go wrong, but don't blame it on you when they go all right? The worst part is that deep down you probably know that if things would have been under your control, they would have probably turned out all right. So don't put the blame on you, you know? It's easier to accept that life happens and that sometimes you're going to make mistakes, sometimes you're going to fail, but you are going to recover from them or at least figure something out than to carry with the weight of a guilt that shouldn't even be yours. Next one is overthinking. And let me explain myself because I know it sounds stupid, but overthinking, it's basically worrying, okay? And I don't mean to minimize it, but if you think about it, when you overthink, you're just overanalyzing things or thinking everything too much. You're just worrying, and everybody worries. That's okay. It's normal and it's inevitable. The problem comes when that overthinking becomes your only way of thinking and when your decisions are based on situations that have only happened in your head. And to make it even worse, are situations that always happen to be the worst case scenario that is likely not going to happen. It's practically impossible to not overthink, or else we all would be absolutely careless. But you need to be careful with how willing you are going to be to let your decisions, your emotions, your thoughts, your ideas, your opportunities, your moments of joy, etc. be taken away from you just because you are overdoing that whole overthinking thing. And I know it's not as easy as it sounds to just stop overthinking, but just being mindful of it helps a lot, because at least now you know that all of those things you are overthinking are likely not going to be true, and you can be mindful of how much you're actually letting them affect you. Next one is living 24/7 in the past. I don't want to sound like one of those corny Pinterest quotes that are like, if you live constantly in the past, you're missing out on your present. I mean, you are, but that's not like the general idea of why that is self-sabotage. It all comes down to the fact that when you do this comparison, you're always making your present life look and feel very bad. Either it is because you can't stop thinking about bad things that happened in the past and still affect you in your present, or because you can't stop thinking about how life used to be better and now it sucks. I know moving on, it's way harder than it sounds, and it's an incredibly long process that has rebounds, and it's really personal. So it really is not about just moving on for the sake of it. It's just being aware that being too caught up in your past can be causing troubles in your present, and try to figure out if there are some things you can do to try to make your present feel a little bit better. The next one is ignoring your emotional needs because you think they make you weak. Love. Everybody feels those emotions. Maybe not at the same time, maybe not for the same things, and maybe not in the same intensity, but everybody does. At the end of the day, emotions are a universal experience, and expressing and feeling yours and putting your well-being as a priority does not make you weak and doesn't make you some type of freak. If something, it just enhances your humanity and show how much of a mature person you are. When you ignore your emotional needs, you're not only completely putting aside yourself, which is completely harmful because it makes you really vulnerable to having a breakdown at some point because of that, but it also doesn't allow you to identify which people are worth staying in your life. You deserve people that respect you and your emotional needs, and you also deserve to treat yourself with that respect as well. The last one is having completely unrealistic expectations. I'm not saying you shouldn't have dreams or that you should expect nothing but average from yourself. I'm talking about expecting things that are completely out of your control, or that you know as a fact that they are just not going to happen. For example, I cannot expect to only like myself once I am a C cup because I'm already a 20-year-old A cup. Like, my boobs are not getting any bigger unless of course I get a surgery, but you get what I mean. It's perfect to have expectations, especially because they help us identify our goals, make decisions, and they work as a source of motivation. Just make sure that your expectations are not absolutely impossible, because you're obviously not going to accomplish them, and you're just sabotaging yourself. And remember that you don't owe perfection to yourself. You can change your expectations at any point. You can make changes, you can fail, you can just lower or higher your expectations whenever you want. It's your life, and at the end of the day, those are just your decisions. The world, it's already a very tough place, so don't make yourself your number one enemy. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. I send you a massive hug. Remember that you are not alone, and see you next week.